Hello guys, I hope that you are all okay. We are group number 1 and our short story is entitled A Message from the Sea. It was written by Charles Dickens. Now, A Message from the Sea is a short story that contains only 3 chapters. Let us discuss the first one. The first chapter of this short story is entitled The Village. As we start reading the story, we encounter the first character, which is Captain Jorgen. Captain Jorgen gets to this village, and the first things he does is that he starts describing the village. He starts describing the way the streets are formed. He starts telling us the way the houses are made. He starts describing the colors of the flowers. He starts describing every single detail that we can encounter in this village or that we can see in this village. Now, after the Captain Jorgen has described how beautiful and how charming the village is, he now sees another part of the town that appeals to him, which is the pier. Now, the pier is somehow very attracted to Captain Jorgen because he's accustomed to, and he sees some fishermen there. And the short story explains that Captain Jorgen is a people person. He loves to talk and he loves to describe his stories and he loves to know about the people who lives in a certain town, etc.
Nice.
So the next steps he takes is to go down to the pier and start speaking with some fishermen. Now, next, Captain Jorgen starts speaking with the fishermen, and they start speaking about life, basically.
6.5 hours later.
They start speaking about how their life is going. And while they are speaking, and while Captain Jorgen is having a conversation with local fishermen, he then sees a young man, and he feels appeal, or he feels the necessity to start speaking with that young man. They start a conversation, and later Captain Jorgen asks him if he is married. The young man replies that he is not married, but someday he hopes to be married. Now, afterwards, while they're having a conversation, Captain Jorgen noticed a young girl getting close to them, and he noticed that the young girl is looking at this young man.
What?
Oh my God! Whom Captain Jorgen is talking to. Now, from that moment on, Captain Jorgen discovers and he realizes that this young girl is this young man's girlfriend. Now, while Captain Jorgen and the sailors are talking down the pier, all of a sudden, a strange man, good-looking man, by the way he dressed, comes out to the pier and starts speaking with Captain Jorgen. That man was named Tom, and afterwards in the story, we discover that he was Captain Jorgen's butler. Now, Tom had a task, and Captain Jorgen had sent Tom to find out where the post office was, and he was instructed to come back or to tell the news of Captain Jorgen when he had encountered or when he had found the post office. By the moment Tom gets to the pier, he tells the news to Captain Jorgen that he has found the post office. Captain Jorgen next says goodbye to the fellow fisherman and starts walking up the hill with Tom to find where the post office is located. Then both Captain Jorgen and Tom start walking up the hill. Now the place where they were going was the post office. Now Tom had already told Captain Jorgen that he found the post office, and when they got close to a house, they noticed a sign, and in the sign it read Mrs. Raybrook. post office, so they knew that they were in the right place. They went inside this house, this post office, and Captain Jorgen noticed an old lady, and the lady was taking care of the post office. He said hello to her, as was accustomed by Captain Jorgen. He is a people person and he loves to talk with others. He says hello to her, he introduces Tom to the elderly woman, and then Mrs. Raybrook proposed Captain Jorgen for them to talk in a quiet place. Captain Jorgen tells Tom to look after the post office while Mrs. Raybrook and he are talking. Now, while Captain Jorgen and Mrs. Raybrook are having a conversation, all of a sudden in the post office appears a young man. And this young man is not alone. He has to bring his girlfriend with him. Captain Jorgen looks very surprised because the young man who has just entered into the post office is the same young man who was in the pier and that attracted Captain Jorgen's curiosity. Now Captain Jorgen has now the opportunity to see or to have a better look of his girlfriend. He makes several compliments to her about the way she dresses and how she should take care of this young man. Now, Captain Jorgen has the opportunity also to talk with this young man and discover that his name was Alfred. Now, Captain Jorgen and Alfred continue to have a conversation, and all of a sudden, Captain Jorgen asks Alfred if he has someone who is a sailor or someone who works in the sea. Alfred tells Captain Jorgen that he does. He had a brother that he is a sailor. Captain Jorgen asks where he is, and Alfred tells him that he departed from his house 3 years ago and never came back. Now Captain Jorgen says that his ship suffered a big tragedy. The ship encounters a rock, crashed against a rock, and all lives were lost. Then Captain Jorgen offers his condolence to this young man and starts telling to them that everybody has passed and everybody is different, everybody has a different personality. Now this young man Alfred tells Captain Jorgen that his brother Hugh was a just, faithful and honest man. They were the sons of a local tradesman and that they had a good reputation in the town. Now Alfred continues telling Captain Jorgen about his brother, about all the good things he did in his town. Captain Jorgen feels well and feels excited to know this information. But then he tells Alfred that he may have some information about how his brother died. He tells Alfred that if they can have a word alone in private. They start walking to a certain place, and then while they were walking, Alfred's girlfriend is noticed by Captain Jorgen. Captain Jorgen asks Alfred what she is doing, and Alfred answers that she is making wedding clothes, possibly for her wedding. Captain Jorgen now blesses and tells several words of encouragement to the young couple that who is soon to be married. Then Captain Jorgen speaks a little bit with Kitty and tells them good luck and that he hopes that his marriage is very prosperous.
Hello everyone, let us continue with the second part of A Message from the Sea by Charles Dickens. And this part is called The Money, and we will see why. So the first idea that we must keep in mind is that after talking a little in the living room, they decide to go to the room to have a talk. And in that talk, Jorgen shows a battle and he tells the story of that battle.
Oh my god! Wow!
So Jorgen explains that in his last trip from South America to Liverpool, he faced a lot of difficult circumstances related to the weather and the storms that hit the ship and made them change their way of traveling. So they see at a distance an island, but they stop the ship and they decide to go in a single boat. So they go and they see that outside the island there is a reef, and in that reef there is a bottle with a message. So of course that bottle made them feel curiosity about it. So they took the bottle and they read the message that the bottle had in the visible part. After talking a little bit of the story of the bottle, Captain explains that he saw the message that was in the visible part of the bottle, and the message was, "Whoever finds this, please convey the message and read to Alfred." And there he found all the address of Alfred and his family. But Alfred feels overwhelmed for all the news that the Captain Jorgen had given him. So he is afraid of reading it, but the captain encourages him to do it. At the beginning, it was not easy for Alfred to understand the content of the letter, especially because that was written by his dead brother Hugh. So the content of the letter was the following: that the money that the family had, that was around 500 pounds, had been stolen.
No! God, please, no! No!
It means that the money was not honest money, and they had to return the money to the owner. Now the problem is the following: that Alfred and Kitty were going to get married soon, and that money would be used to that. So our following point is that he reads the letter and he starts feeling desperate and overwhelmed for all the content of the letter. After Alfred explained why he felt the way he felt, they decide to think and to get more context from the letter. So there is a place, there is Lorient, there is related to the letter. So they decide to think in possible people who live there, to travel there, and to get more information about the letter. And then Alfred remembered that Kitty's father lived there before, so they decide to go and to visit Kitty's father to get more information of the people who live in Lorient, to get more information about the letter. Before visiting Kitty's father, they decide to keep the secret, just Jorgen and Alfred. And then they returned to the living room where the three women stayed: Margaret, Kitty, and Alfred's mother. Now the three women started suspecting that someone was wrong there, because they had seen the change in the face of Alfred. So they started asking what was happening, but they could not say anything about that. So Alfred just explained that he and Kitty wouldn't get married soon. So that was the problem. There everything exploded because the three women were angry and were saying that the captain was a bad person because he had given them bad news. Our next idea is the following. After all that problem, they decided to go to visit Kitty's father to get more information about the people who live in Lorient. They got the information they wanted, and then they decide to start traveling to Lorient. But before going there, the Captain Jorgen see that Kitty and Alfred were trying to say goodbye to each other after the fight, so they were talking, and there was a sweet way in which they demonstrated love to each other. But the Captain Jorgen interrupted them because it was time to go to Lorient.
Hello everyone, this is the last part of this short story. This is the chapter number 3 called The Restitution. In this part, we're gonna see how the characters find the solution to the main conflict of this story. So, let's start. Let's see how this story ends. I'm gonna mention some of the most important parts of this chapter 3. There is a part in this chapter where the captain, Jorgen, is just there having breakfast, and when suddenly he saw two boys approaching to him. At the beginning he couldn't realize who these boys were because he couldn't see clearly. But then, when the boys were closer to him, he realized that these men were the fisherman, Alfred, and his brother, Hugh. Of course, at the beginning, he was surprised because he couldn't understand Hawk could be there, because everyone thought that Hawk was disappeared. Maybe he was dead for everyone. So the captain was confused, but these boys tried to explain to him what happened. So they explained to the captain that Hawk had been released. After the explanation that these boys gave to the captain, to Jorgen, they wanted to bring Hawk to the village because they wanted the family to see him again, because they will be happy, his wife as well. But then they start thinking, if we bring Hawk to the village, it could be a great impression for everyone. It could be a kind of confusing situation, because everyone thought that Hawk was dead, that he just disappeared. So they decided to bring Hawk to the village without being recognized. But before doing this, they decided to go to the lawyer's office to check some documents, because they knew about this money, a money that was lost, that something happened in the past and this money disappeared. But they wanted to know the real truth, what really happened in that moment. So they went to this office, but they bring a Hawk without being recognized. And when they start checking these documents, they found many answers for this problem, about this money. They found that Lawrence Clissold has borrowed Alfred's father £5. When they were reading these documents, they also found something really important. They found that Lawrence Clissold and Alfred's father had an agreement. This agreement was in this way. Alfred's father told Lawrence Clissold that he had a limit of time to pay this money. At the beginning, everything was okay, because Lawrence said, okay, you will have your money back in this time, the time that you told me. So after this, Alfred's father gave Lawrence the money he wanted, £500. Some time had passed, and the time limit that Lawrence had passed too. So Alfred was kind of worried, because he didn't have his money back. He started thinking, maybe Lawrence won't give me back the money. But later, the boys, Alfred and Hawk, found in the documents that yes, Lawrence gave his father the money back, but a long time later. In this moment, when they finished reading all the documents, they were kind of surprised, but they wanted to know more about this. So in that moment, they decided to go to Tegarden's house, Kitty's father's, to know more about the situations, because they started thinking that something else was missing. When they arrived there to Tegarden's house, they started talking. In a moment, the captain mentions Clissold's name. In that moment, Tegarden was surprised, was shocked and nervous, because he remembered what happened. It's in that moment when he decided to tell them the truth. He started saying that he and Clissold were office mates. They worked in the same place. Tegarden was in charge to keep or to register the amount of money, and then he had to give this information to Clissold and the money to him. But one day, £500 disappeared. That day, when Tegarden went to his office, everyone was looking at him as if he had done something bad, and he didn't understand what was happening. But then the authorities at that moment asked him for the documents, to show them the documents, the registrations of the money. He was sure that he didn't do anything anything bad and that the registration of that money was there. But when the authorities checked those documents, that information was not there, and he couldn't understand what happened. He swore that he was not guilty. Anyways, everyone accused him to have stolen the money, so he had to pay for something that he didn't do. But he was sure that Clissold had stolen that money. Now that Alfred and Hugh knew the truth, they told Thegarden that they wanted to give him the money, to give him £500, because they thought that it was the right thing to do. They thought that Thegarden deserved that because he paid for something that he didn't do. At the beginning, Thegarden said, "I wanted to keep this as a secret for the rest of my life because I didn't want hurt Kitty, because you know that Kitty was in love with Alfred. But for me, now it is enough to know that I can live in peace, that now you know the real truth. I don't need the money." But later, even though he said no, they gave him £500. At the end, and this is the last part, at the end, Kitty and Alfred got married, and now that everyone loves Jorgen because he helped the boys, he said goodbye to everyone in the village, and he left the village. So this is the end. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.